Well, all right. Welcome here. My name is Karl Böhringer. I'm a faculty here in electrical and computer engineering. And we'll be talking about the study abroad program, Engineering Switzerland. Maybe you want to check quickly who you are. Which are you all in ECE? No? Which departments or programs are you?
Mechanical.
Mechanical, all right. Okay, and
I'm in engineering on the third, but I want to go to two.
okay, and sounds good. Yeah, and yourself. Okay, okay.
It is recording.
It is recording. Yeah, so we are recording this session here, even though it probably won't record what you are saying. But and yeah, you can see the picture up there. So in case somebody wants to know more about it later and they can't make it here. Anyway, so I'm Karl Böhringer. I'm faculty here. I've been here for quite a long time. My specialty is mostly in microelectromechanical systems and microfabrication. That's what I teach at the graduate level, but I also teach EE 215, so the introductory course for electrical engineering, and this is required for several programs. I've taught that course many times here on campus, and we also have done it twice in Switzerland. But in Switzerland, it's a little bit different. So here we usually have maybe 100 or 150 students attending it. Last time we had, how many, 27, I think? Or, yeah, so around 30 students. The previous time in 2019, we had a smaller group with about 20 students, so 22. A different style, but similar content. Actually, in both cases, you would get the credit for 215. You may get a lot more attention from the instructors and from the TA when you take this course abroad, but that's only one of the benefits. Let me tell you a little bit more. Actually, here you can see Lausanne. I don't know, has anybody been in Switzerland? No? So one of my favorite places to go, and this is in the French-speaking part of Switzerland on Lake Geneva. You see the Mont Blanc group of the Alps in the background, and Lausanne is, let's see, is it the second largest city or the largest city is Zurich, but I think it is the second largest city in Switzerland. So very nice location on Lake Geneva. Let's see, oh, there's my controller here. Oops, now I pushed some button that made it stop, but oh, I really froze it up. Maybe you can unfreeze it somehow. Oh, there we go. Okay, well, believe it or not, but that's me in that picture here. This was, I guess, pictures a few years ago, pre-COVID. Actually, on the right side, this is us on one of the excursions that we did. We went up to the glaciers near Zermatt in one of the alpine resorts that we visited. So we were able to sled through some tunnel there through an ice canal. One of the fun things that we did. Yeah, I don't think I need to say much more about myself. Yeah, I've been here for a long time. I'm also the director of the Nano Engineering Institute here. Maybe you've been to the Moliès Nano ES building, just a few steps from here. We have some other staff members here, and here is Corin.
Yep. Hey, everybody. My name is Corin Shelley-Rees. My day job, I guess, is at the Molecular Engineering and Sciences Institute and the Clean Energy Institute. I mainly do events and communications work, but I sit in front of Carl's office, and we support Carl through the Nano Engineering and Sciences Institute. So through that, I got connected with Carl, and I co-led the Engineering Switzerland program in 2023. And it was a phenomenal experience, and I really cannot recommend it enough. You'll hear more from me later in the presentation about some questions and about study abroad. But
Okay, and I think we have another slide here for our TA. So Kevin can tell you a little bit about himself.
All right, so my name is Kevin, and I'm currently the first year PhD student in the EC department, and I have been TA for 215 already 6 times, I guess. And my research area is in the human-computer interactions and STEM educations, and I also serve as a TA for the Engineering Switzerland program in 2023.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, we have an experienced team here, as you maybe have noticed. So Kevin was with us once, same as Corin. I did it once before that in 2019 with a different team. But it's great that we have the same group again, so we know how everything works, and it should work smoothly. So a couple of things in general. Why would you want to do this abroad? I mean, you're here, you probably already have your reasons, but it's always exciting to travel. For me, I really enjoy that as part of my job, and see other places, see other cultures and languages. And it's Switzerland, in a way, it's a small place, but it's also a very diverse place with 4 different official languages and very different landscapes depending on where you go, including, of course, spectacular locations like the Alps. So what else do we have on our list here? I think a lot of employers actually like to see this kind of international experience. You can say, well, I've worked at a location in Europe and have experience in travel and all that. But also one thing that you'll probably experience there differently than here is being in a close group. You work together with students, you probably get to know everybody very well during those 5 weeks that we spend in Switzerland. And you probably meet some of the locals there as well, which is another benefit. So 215, you know that for several programs here, this is a required course, introductory course for electrical engineering, or of course, if you do well, you can then use that as a basically your leverage to get into the department or into our ECE or computer engineering programs. Now, let's see. Yeah, you see the prerequisites. You probably know all that already, but we basically run it the same way as we do here, just in a compressed schedule. Last time when we went, we did it in 4 weeks, which was pretty intense. This time we do it as a summer B session rather than an early fall, so we have 1 additional week. So that should take some pressure off you, so you'll have a little bit more time to keep up. Basically, it's twice the speed as we do here, but then you probably don't, well, you will not take any other courses, presumably, while you're there. About the location, so this is a map of Switzerland. You have Italy in the south, you have France in the west, and then at the top there's Germany and also Liechtenstein and Austria. Central location, a landlocked location with the Alps in the southern half of Switzerland. You see part of the campus here, the famous Rolex Center. So maybe you have heard about Rolex watches. So they funded a nice building here, and it was actually intentional to make it look like a slice of Swiss cheese here. So that is not an accident. They, I guess, had enough humor to do that here. But it's a pretty cool building. It has some cafeteria and libraries and other facilities in there. And it's just a few steps away from where we usually have our sessions. Lausanne, yeah, I already mentioned French-speaking part of Switzerland, home of the International Olympic Committee. So there are some nice museums and other things to see related to the Olympics. So it goes all the way back, I guess, to the late 1800s when that idea of modern Olympics was started. Usually visiting the Olympic Museum is part of our program. So we can just take an afternoon off and check it out. Yeah, 8 million people, so not much more than or how many people live in Washington State? I think it's sort of a similar number. I think the size is probably not that much different from Washington State either. So, but yeah, 4 official languages, even though French and in particular German really dominate most of it, but you have an Italian and a Romansh section as well. You probably haven't heard much about Romansh, but it's an interesting language, probably the one that's most closely related to Latin, that has sort of stayed in a few valleys in some corners of Switzerland. This is a picture that I think we took probably from one of our excursions. So the famous Matterhorn here, a little bit different angle, but this is one of the really prominent mountains that actually is the right side is in Switzerland, the left side is on Italy, and then France is actually on the back on the right. So an interesting corner here, and we were up at about 3,800 meters, which I guess is something like, what is that, multiplied by 3, so about 12,000 feet or so. So pretty high up, and that was also one of the really nice excursions with great weather. How does it work? Well, this is the schedule. So we do a summer B session this year, starting in late July and then running all through August. We have usually 2 hours of lecture. I have to get to my total 27 lectures, just like what I do here. We don't do, or I don't do a lecture on Fridays, but we have other activities, including some lab and quiz sections that Kevin usually runs. And this year, actually, since it's a longer program, we also do the EE 398 section, which is, I don't know whether you've heard about 398. This is basically a 1 credit hour section on professional issues for engineers. I actually just finished it. I did that also this quarter, and we usually have some invited speakers. So it's sort of like a seminar where we talk about careers in electrical engineering or in engineering in general, about ethics, about patents and intellectual property, about career planning and so on. So it should be useful for you. And actually, if you're in ECE, then it is also one of the requirements, but not exactly a heavy workload. It's more for your more broader information in engineering. And then ENG 496 is essentially the study abroad portion. So learning about Switzerland and so our excursions to various places, they count towards the engineering 496. So you basically get 3 things in one by going there, but 215 is really the main activity, obviously. How does it work otherwise? So we have some activities on campus. Actually, the EPFL campus is one of the top schools in Europe. There are really only 2 national universities in Switzerland, but EPFL in Zurich, ETH, those are the main universities there, and really great facilities, excellent researchers, and we visit some of their labs. So we'll mix this around depending on who I can invite to speak or whose labs we can visit. Saturdays, we usually do some excursions. So we go to some places like Geneva, for example, to see the particle accelerator. And we go to Zermatt, to the mountain resorts, and several other excursions, medieval castle, that's also in our tour, and cheese and chocolate making facilities that we're checking out. So lots of interesting things to see. Sundays are usually off, except that 1 weekend trip to Zermatt. This year, we also have 1 weekend completely open for you, so you can go out and do things. So last year, we had quite a few people who did mountain biking or some other tours, maybe go to Geneva or go to some other mountain places that are, well, lots of interesting things and hikes and activities that you can do. Already mentioned Zermatt, so famous mountain resort, famous for climbing, skiing, and mountaineering, and so on. Geneva CERN is one of the largest facilities for particle accelerators. Actually, UW has some joint projects with them. Actually, probably pretty much every leading university has some project going on there as well. But really interesting facility to see just the massive scale of this kind of experiment that they're running there. And we can go in and look at least some of the facilities. The first time I was there, it was actually in a maintenance mode, so we could actually go into the tunnel where otherwise there would be, well, particles accelerated almost to the speed of light. Usually you can't go there because the radiation is too high, but the first time we were in a way lucky to actually check that out in person, go down elevators, I don't know, 40 floors down under the ground and see that. Okay, Montreux, another famous city, maybe you've heard about that from various places, including the jazz festival that usually happens there. Actually, we may even overlap with that when we're there. I think it's a little bit earlier in the summer. And then, yeah, it's actually also a very famous place for winemaking. Really dates back to the Roman days, about 2,000 years old, that people have grown wine or grapes on these very steep slopes that face south towards Lake Geneva. So we get on a little train and check out this UNESCO World Heritage Site. Okay, Olympic Museum, I mentioned that already. Checking out the cheese and the chocolate, and actually a beautiful little town, Gruyère, which has some, besides these facilities, also some museums of what's his name, Giger, right? The maybe some of you have seen the Alien movie franchise, and that artist actually designed the alien monster, and you can go into an exhibit and see his artwork, which is a little bit weird, but kind of interesting. All right, I think this is where I hand it over to Corin.
Yep. All right, so I will talk a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of the program. So for housing this year, we're going to be staying with a group called FMEL, which is something in French that I can't remember, but it's basically the student housing organization. So we'll be staying close to campus. The pictures here are a building that's called the Vortex, and I think it was constructed for the Junior Olympics a number of years ago. And then the picture below is one of the rooms there. What you can expect is that you will have your own space. You should have a kitchenette, a living room, bedroom, and your own bathroom. There is a possibility that it could be like a suite style situation where there's like a common living space, but you would all kind of have your own private spaces off of that. So this is kind of what we're looking at right now. Here's a sample itinerary of what your first week would look like. So on Sunday, we fly into either Geneva or Zurich, or sometimes people choose to travel ahead of time. So wherever you are, we want to make sure that you're getting in on Sunday. Then we'll be doing our check-in into our housing that Sunday, and then potentially kind of a just group check-in event that evening. And then we hit the ground running, and basically the next morning you've got class. So 9 a.m. is usually when those start. Like Carl mentioned, that's a 2-hour lecture for EE 215. Because this is the first week, then we would have an orientation following that. Normally we wouldn't have anything right after class, but since everyone will be there, and that'll just be a check-in for me, just to make sure that everybody has made it okay, all the housing is working out and looking good. And then that afternoon we would do a Lausanne city tour, which is a great way to get acquainted with the area and the town, and we see the highlights, the cathedrals, and walk around, which is great. Then you can see moving through the week, you continue going to lecture, you have quiz sections with Kevin. We'd have a welcome dinner for everybody on that Tuesday. Let's keep moving through. And then you see we continue through the week with class, and then on that Friday we would have the Olympic Museum group tour, and then on Saturday we'd have our first excursion. So we're definitely moving quickly on these programs, and there's a lot happening, which I think is great. But just definitely be aware as we go, and that's I think one of the real benefits of the summer B program as opposed to the early fall is that you do have that sort of mid-program free weekend where you can take some time and explore on your own. So that is what you can expect there. So the program cost, the money is always the big question. So the program fee is $5,500. What this includes is the instruction, the housing, and program activities and program travel. So while we're on the ground, any trains, buses, you'll get a metro pass basically for the whole month. So getting around Lausanne, that will all be covered by the program. What is not included in that fee is there's the $485 study abroad fee, and this comes from UW Central. This is just part of their process to handle applications and all that. The airfare is not covered. Obviously, this can change a lot depending on where you're flying from. Something to keep an eye out for if you decide to come on this program. I believe next summer, before our program, there's a Swiss airline called Edelweiss that will be starting direct flights from Seattle to Zurich. And they are a budget airline, so I would expect them to be on the cheaper end. So if that's something you're interested in, that's something I will definitely be looking at to see, because having a direct is great. Otherwise, you're probably flying through Frankfurt or Amsterdam or something like that. So it's definitely a longer day. The food is also not covered. So this is why we like to have housing that has kitchenette so that you can do grocery shopping and cook for yourself, so that we can try and keep those costs down. The UW Study Abroad insurance is a required thing by UW Central. Everybody that is on the program, including all of us, are required to be insured by the university, and that equates to about $1.64 a day. I think that may be, this is last year's rate, so it may have changed slightly, but it's pretty affordable. And then other health expenses and immunizations that you may need. Obviously, Switzerland doesn't have any required vaccinations or anything, so this is a pretty nominal thing. But if you do have any health concerns, if you have any conditions that you would need to be bringing medication, that's something that you just want to make sure that you've got covered, because it is 5 weeks, so it's a long time to be thinking ahead in terms of those concerns. And then also personal spending money. So because study abroad and going abroad is an expensive proposition, I just want to let everybody know that there are scholarships available through UW Study Abroad. They go up to $2,500. When you're submitting your application for, this goes for any study abroad program, including ours, there is a box that says that you would like to be considered for scholarships. There is no separate application or anything. You have to check that box. So as far as I'm concerned, I would say just do it no matter what. There's no harm in trying. And then the Pell eligible students are guaranteed the maximum amount under that. So that max 2,500. You can also use financial aid for study abroad programs. Something to note is that because it's the summer quarter, you would have to submit a separate request for that financial aid because it's not one of the kind of 3 main quarters you would be doing. And then if you wanted to raise your financial aid limit, there is this revision request form that you do through Study Abroad. And that would be something that I would be happy to help you out with, or I can connect you with our Study Abroad program manager who knows far more about this than I do. All right, now some just sort of general questions about studying abroad and our program. Is it safe to study abroad? Switzerland is one of the world's safest countries, so say definitely yes. But we always want to, make sure that we're being aware of what we're doing, and the UW always wants to remind people that there's a false sense of security when we travel. So even though it may feel good, we're just always trying to be aware. And then, so these are 2 programs that UW has that kind of address this. So the Global Travel Security Management Program, UW has a 24/7 team that monitors all the study abroad programs while they're out. So if we ever have any issues, we can contact them right away. You guys will also have resources as students of the travel insurance. Basically there's an app that you'll download and you can connect with them whenever you would like. So if you ever have any concerns, that's something that you'll have access to. And then obviously all of the program staff is there to make sure that you guys are safe, happy, and healthy throughout the whole trip. All right, some more questions here. Myth busting study abroad. So common myth, study abroad can delay my graduation, especially in engineering. I think people sometimes struggle with the idea of it because, you know, the course loads and, you know, what you're being told of the timelines, it seems like, oh, how can I possibly fit this in? It's a great thing about the summer programs or the early fall programs is that it's a great time to get this in, and it can actually jumpstart you know, your next year by getting ahead with these credits. And I think our program is great in that it offers those core courses as well. So it's a really good way to get those core credits taken care of in a very fun environment. I guess I kind of hit myth 2 there at the same time. The third one, this is time to slack off and party with friends in a different country. It's definitely a lot of fun. And, you know, we all had an awesome time last time, and I cannot recommend it enough, but I think Carl kind of alluded to it, is that the course is being done in half the normal time. So it is a little demanding. And you saw on that schedule that you're doing class almost every day. You've got a couple hours of lectures. There are a lot of activities happening. So just want to make sure that everybody is aware that, you know, we want to make sure that you are keeping up with the class and meeting the expectations, because there is that accelerated workload. All right, another myth is that only juniors and seniors can study abroad. That's not true. Anybody that meets the prerequisites are eligible to apply to the program. Obviously, juniors and seniors probably are more likely to have that, but if you're a freshman or a sophomore and you do have those requirements met, then by all means apply. I think if you have questions about the requirements or think that you might have something that's equivalent, I think Carl is always happy to chat and see if we feel like you would be a good fit for the program anyway. Obviously, the program is only for electrical engineers. We have people in the room who are not electrical engineers and being interested. So yes, it's definitely for everybody. You know, if it's a core course for you, then that's a bonus. But if you're just interested in electrical engineering, then the more the merrier. We're always happy to have you. And then the last one here is, I don't want to go alone and I won't have any friends there. I think one of the most fun things for us to watch is the group come together on the program, like just watching everybody meet each other for the first time, and then doing a program like this is really, I think, a unique experience that you don't get anywhere else. And it's so fun because it brings you together in a way that not many other things do, and you will meet people and become friends with people that, you know, you maybe would not have met otherwise. They'll be outside your major, they'll, you know, be outside your class standing, you know, it could be younger, older, whatever. And I think it's just it's a great opportunity to meet people and make new friends. So like that. All right, what is next? Apply. Applications are open now, and they are due on Friday, January 31st. The application is pretty quick, 3 short answer questions and 1 recommendation survey. You'll have to sign a few documents. And I will remind you again, when you submit this application, make sure that you check that box for the scholarships. That is a big point. I don't know, leave that up for a second if anybody wants to grab it. I can also go back. All right, so the selection process is kind of dependent on, that's the 2019 photo. It is dependent on how many applications we get. So as Carl mentioned, last time we took 30 students. I think in that year we had about 65 applications for the program. Not everybody stayed in the application pool, but that kind of gives you an idea of you know, how many people ended up on the program versus the number of applications that we got. I think for the most part, I thought, you know, everybody had a strong application. If we are in that situation again where we have more applicants than we are able to take, we will do Zoom interviews with people. I think we did group interviews, so kind of like a small panel. You'd be interviewing with maybe 3 or 4 other people at the same time. And they were pretty quick. I don't think not too scary or taxing, I hope. And then you will be. If you were selected, you would be notified on February 15th of that. And then after that, you have 3 weeks to confirm. So I think, yeah, early March is when you would be asked by Study Abroad to make your final decision on that. And then once you've been accepted to the program, then we will have, I think, 3 or 4 pre-departure orientations. The purpose of these is to kind of, just get to know the people that you're going with, get prepared for going to Switzerland, some travel logistics and packing lists and things like that, just to help you out. And then also introductions to Swiss history and culture. And then also, we've had, I think last time we had the Swiss, not the ambassador, the consul general come and talk about Swiss history, and then we also had a UW faculty that works with CERN in Geneva come in and lecture about his work as well. So just a little bit of introduction to the types of things that we're going to be doing. And now we have reached the end. So if you have any questions, we would be happy to take questions. The 2 QR codes on here, we have an online interest form, which I think is the top one. So if you're interested, feel free to just hop on there and fill it out. And it'll basically give us your email and we'll send you any updates about the program, or happy to answer any questions that you might have. We won't use your email for anything other than this. And then the other one is just for the program application. We have a website that has basically the same info we just gave you. But if you wanted a refresher on it, you could go check out that website and see that.